online. We've got three groups amongst our earlier students. We've got 3 to 4-year-olds, 4 to 5-year-olds, and 5 to 6-year-olds. And in all three groups, we teach using Zoom online. Cherie, have I forgotten anything?
No, I think you've got it right, Tash. So the only thing I just want to add is when we started teaching online, we had very little resources because we couldn't use any of our usual Timmy videos initially, or even the worksheets because of copyright restrictions, and even YouTube channels were a little bit restricted as well. So we had to almost go back to basics, but in an online setting. We've learned a lot since then, but I think we're still learning. And I feel that like EY online learning is here to stay in some form or some way or form. So we hope this session will give you some practical tips on how to teach early years online.
Yes, we definitely hope that you'll walk away with some useful ideas at the end of the session. But before we get into all that, we'd like to know how confident you feel teaching this age group online. So there you go, there's the question. Please send us a comment in the chat. How confident do you feel teaching early years online? So we're talking of the 3 to 5-year-old age group. Maybe you can type, there we go, we've got some percentages. Till the others comment. Cherie, what would you say? How confident are you?
When we first went online, I really wasn't very confident at all, Tash. I would say I was about 40% confident, but after over a year and a half of teaching early years online, I think my confidence has steadily increased. Is that how you feel as well?
Yes, I'd agree. And I've just been looking at some of the percentages coming up. I did see a couple of zeros, and I think I saw 5. But it's lovely to see that there's lots of higher numbers as well, 50s, 60s, 70s.
Yes, 40%, 75. Wow. That's pretty amazing. Great. Okay.
So we hope that percentage will climb as we continue with the webinar.
Yes. Okay, so let's look at what we will discuss in this session. Let me just move on. Okay. So we're going to first look at the challenges of teaching early years online. And then we're going to move on to routines and basically how routines form a framework for a lesson plan. Then we're going to move on to encouraging speaking with your early years students. And then we're going to move on to how to teach songs, and then examples of some of the pretend play activities we have done and how you can include it in your lessons as well. And then we'll just end with the Q&A.
Lovely. So shall we start with the first one there?
Yes.
Challenges.
Right, let me just move on. There we go.
Great. So there's the question. What challenges do you face teaching early years online? And if there's anyone there that's not taught this age group online yet, maybe just think about what kind of challenges you think we might have. And please tell us in the chat. So again, till the comments come in, Cherie, what challenges have you faced?
So when I first started, I was really worried about tech issues. I think like most teachers, we only worry about the tech issues part because especially early years are not like primary students and their digital literacy skills are not as developed. But honestly, now, I think the biggest challenge is dealing with overeager parents during class. So for examples, like giving answers and not waiting for their child to like listen to the question and process the answer. And I think this is my biggest challenge at the moment. But what about you, Tash?
Well, thinking back, I think I remember wondering whether children that young will really interact, whether they'll really engage with each other and with me online. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, I find that some do, but there are some that do find this online setting unnatural and they find it hard to engage. Another thing that concerned me was the routine. how can I keep that same classroom routine that they were used to in a physical classroom now that we're in this new setting? And I think that particularly affected us because we were halfway through a term when we suddenly had to move online. And so we had to just kind of pick things up as we went along.
Yeah, I agree, Tash. I still find it challenging as well to figure out what kind of activities to choose to increase engagement online. But I guess we're getting better at it. Some comments
Yes.
coming in, like a lot of people are talking about, sorry, go ahead, Tash.
I was going to say tech issues. There seems to be a lot of it. And also about somebody, Deliana said that it's difficult for children to concentrate. And I saw that repeated, a short attention span, Masa said.
Yeah. And also overprotective parents as well. Someone commented on that as well.
Yes.
So
all very genuine challenges, things that I'm sure the both of us have faced as well.
Yeah, so these are all valid challenges. And Tash, you might agree with me. So you learn as you go, and taking a few minutes to reflect on what went wrong and how you could do better next time, I feel really makes a difference.
I agree.
Yeah.
And maybe just talking to colleagues, because chances are that others face the same challenges that you're having online.
Yes, definitely. All right, let's see what we're going to do next. Okay.
Great. So we're going to move on to routines and talk about how it provides the framework for our lessons. But again, before Cherie and I talk about our routine, why do you think it's important to establish a routine, even in an online setting? What are the advantages of a routine? Please let us know in the chat. Now, Cherie and I use practically the same routine. That means we do the same type of activity in the same order in every single lesson. And that is kind of the framework for our lesson plan. So Cherie, would you like to start us off? What do you start off with in class? How do you begin?
Yes, okay, so let me just move on to the next slide. Right, so I start the lesson with just music and then the opening slide. I like to keep my camera off until the students get settled, so until they sort out their mics and their cameras. And this just takes about 2 minutes. And then we move on to Wake Up Timmy. So let me just do that with you guys right now. Can you see Timmy?
I can.
What's he doing?
I think he's sleeping.
I think we need to wake him up, boys and girls. Shall we wake Timmy up? Come on, help me. Timmy, wake up. Timmy, wake up. Oh, there you go. You're a bit sleepy today, aren't you? Let's say hi.
Hi, Timmy.
So that's how I usually start. And then I move on to the hello song, which we all do together. So I'll just do a little bit with you now. Hello, 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 how are you? And then they go, I'm fine, thank you. And hopefully sometimes with the older kids, they kind of sing it along as well to each other. So yeah, that's how I start. What about you, Tash?
Yeah, that's pretty much, it's very similar to what I do, using Timmy to start the lesson, doing our hello song. And actually with me, maybe one difference, if you look at the screen, is that I start with song time. So after we sing our hello song, I continue with one or two other songs that the kids know. And then I move on to show and tell. So, sorry, the homework, show and tell. So with that homework section, I use the Zoom Spotlight tool. So we go with one student at a time. They hold up whatever homework they've done and we have a little chat about it. If you just move to the next slide, please, Cherie.
Yeah, 1 second. There you go.
There we go. So video or story time comes next, and we do whatever activities I've planned for that. The next one, game time, is a really important part of my routine because I think it's good to vary what the children are doing so that they're not just sitting there and staring at the screen for the whole of their lesson. So I might play a game like maybe I do a race. I ask them to run around their room or their house and bring back something that's connected to whatever we're discussing in the lesson. What kind of games do you play, Cherie? Do you have any other suggestions?
So I usually do TPR type activities as well. So where they do something physical just to move around a bit. So for example, to review vocabulary, I might hold up a picture. Can you see my picture? There we go.
Yes.
And then I go, is it an elephant? And if it's a no, they go no. And if is it a pig? Then they have to jump up and say yes. So just something really simple like that. And yeah, that's basically what I do for like game time as well. But there are lots of games we have, like even just run and fetch and the usual ones that we're all pretty used to by now.
I think the idea is that you don't want them just staring at the screen the whole time. We want them active, even at home.
Right. So that was game time. Tash, what do you do for sound time? Because that's what we usually do next.
That's the next one, yes. So as you see there on the screen, I've got a little chant that I use to indicate that we're going to begin sound time. Let me just do it for you. So it goes clap, clap, table, table, clap, clap, table, table, sounds, sounds. Let's learn some sounds, sounds, sounds. Let's learn some sounds. So now my kids, they know it, they know the chant, they know the rhythm. And the minute we start, that indicates, it signals to them that we're going to do a little bit of phonics work. So each week I introduce a new sound. We learn an action and a song that corresponds to that sound, and that helps them to remember it. And then we do some kind of maybe air writing, or some weeks we might use clay or Play-Doh to form the shape of the letter. Or maybe other weeks we actually write on paper. And of course, play lots and lots of games to review the sounds that we already know. And that pretty much brings us to the end of the lesson. And then it's time for the last part of our routine, which is the goodbye chant. Cherie, is that kind of what you do as well with your routine?
Yeah, Tash, the sequence of my routines are pretty much the same. I think maybe the only thing I have which is different is probably the chants, because each teacher has their own chant, which is a little bit different. So I use visual cues. So I'll just show you the screen again. So the same visual cues, I like to use that for transition as well. So I find that because I use these visual cues, that the kids actually know what's going to come up next. So I go, oh, what time is it now, boys and girls? And they always know what time. They're like, oh, it's story time, or it's sound time. And so I think that's really important, that they have a sense of where the lesson is going as well.
Exactly, I agree. I think that sense of control is definitely important. So let's think about that question we raised a few minutes ago about the advantages of routines. Cherie, what's your favorite advantage?
My favorite advantage of so many. So what I love about routines are that it really cuts down on planning time, because the routines form the framework for your lesson plan. So, I mean, it's pretty much the same thing, and you're just like varying the activities. So, I mean, that's my favorite thing about routines. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
And I noticed, I'm just scrolling up. Yeah, there were loads of comments that came in about motivation. Hien Tran said that they learn the habit, that they know what's coming up.
Yeah, and it settles, someone had mentioned that it settles students as well. Like
myself said it helps them feel more organized. Yeah, so routines are definitely really important for this earlier age group, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so I think we can move on to the next slide. Right, let's see where we are. There we are. Okay, so we've spoken about challenges. and routines. So now let's move on to encouraging speaking. Tash, can you tell us how you encourage speaking in your online EY classes?
Well, I think the most important thing to me is just to be conscious of it, to be conscious of creating as many opportunities as possible for authentic, genuine speaking. So this is something I keep in mind when planning lessons. So whatever the course book task is or whatever the activity is, I try to think, can I change this around so that as many students as possible get a chance to speak? So for example, going back to the routines that we just went through, when it's homework time to check the homework. As I said, I use the Zoom Spotlight tool. So one by one, kids hold up whatever they've done at home. And I've got loads of questions for them. So maybe what colors did you use? Where are you in that picture? What are you doing? Or if it's some kind of craft work that they've done at home, I might ask them, how did you make it? What did you use? Was that part easy? Was that part difficult? And of course, depending on the age of the child and their level, I would change the question so that questions are simpler, easier to answer, or more open and allow for more speaking.
Yeah, that's a great way to differentiate questions you ask. So depending on each student and their language levels. So yeah, that's a really good idea. You can change your questions depending on the student, isn't it? So I tend to spotlight 2 students at a time, so they can compare their work in terms of colors and words, especially this is when we're comparing homework or we're doing homework check time. And I find that also creates a lot of like natural speaking and that sort of thing. Story time is another opportunity to encourage speaking, isn't it, Tashya?
Yes. Story time, or maybe you're using a video or some kind of listening task. We've always got a pre-listening or pre-watching and a different task to do while listening or while watching. And both of these generate a lot of speaking when it's time to feedback and get their ideas. And after both activities, whether it's a video or a story, I love the follow-up. And I try and make sure that there's always time for some kind of personalization. Cherie, if you just share your screen, thank you. So recently I did a story called The Odd Pet. And after we read that, the follow-up was where the kids had to make their own odd pet using whatever they had around them. So if you look at the screen there, in the first one, it was some kind of bird, a weird looking bird. And so there was lots of authentic speaking because they were so proud of what they had made. They described the parts, what the animal ate, where it lived, what it was called, and then compared each other's animals. So that was lovely to see. And the photos at the bottom, we had just done a lesson on clothes, different types of clothes and colors. And then we read a story called The Washing Line. So the follow-up to that was where they created their own washing line. And again, as you can see there, they spoke about whose clothes were on their line. Again, the colors, what kind of clothes they were, when they wear those clothes, whether they helped their mom and dad to hang up their washing. So I love that personalization stage because it's their own, it's what they've made. And in my classes, I find that children just naturally speak a lot when it's their own work.
Yeah, I agree, Tash, because I did washing line as well. And what they did was they brought their own washing basket and they took out the clothes and hung it out on the rack as well. So then we just ask questions and is that your t-shirt or is that your dad's t-shirt? So it created a lot of authentic conversation, which I think is really key to encouraging speaking. And another really important thing to make sure is that you model whatever language as well. So let me just talk about that a little bit more. So what happens is I like to model language with Timmy. So if I ask a question from Timmy, Timmy will answer, and then Timmy will ask you a question as well. So I'll just do it simple. How do you feel today, Timmy? I feel fine. Shall we ask Tash how she feels? Okay. How do you feel today, Tashi?
I feel happy.
Go. So, and then it basically they can just like have the structure to the question and the answers. Yeah, and that's what I do. But let's ask the teachers, do you have any other ideas on how to encourage speaking? Let us know in the chat. So let me just put the question up first.
Yes.
Here we go.
So send us a comment in the chat, please.
Tash, until these answers come in, I just have a question to ask you. How do you deal with children who don't respond at all? Because that can happen as well.
Oh, it definitely happens. And I don't like it. I feel a little discouraged. But what I try and remind myself of is that there is this silent period with very young children where for a while they're just absorbing things, even if they're not speaking. So we just need to be patient, just give it time. And also if there is a response where they're just even nodding their head or maybe shaking their head, just remember that that still is a valid response. So maybe encourage, praise them, because at this age, positive reinforcement is really, really important. Another thing that I try and do, particularly if it's one or two children that I know struggle to express themselves, is just to think about simplifying the question. So maybe to make it a yes/no question, or give them a choice. So maybe if it's food you're talking about, I might ask, do you like rice or do you like noodles? And yeah, maybe another tip would be to model or to demonstrate the task. Maybe stronger child, or if you happen to have a teaching assistant, that works great, so that these quieter students know exactly what's expected of them. That helps as well.
Yeah, I really like your point of simplifying the questions as well to like yes or no, or just like choice questions, which is a really good point. And also, I think, talking about children who just don't speak, it's also, we have to remember that their parents are sitting right next to them. And it's really stressful to have your parents sit right next to you while you're learning a second language. So that needs to be taken into consideration as well.
Absolutely. And I think that's why it's really good to set expectations right at the beginning, on day one of the course. So just as much as we might have rules or the kind of behavior that we expect from children, when you're teaching online with this age group where you know the parents are going to be around, I think it's also important to set expectations for parents' behavior. So I try and have a little discussion, and then I put it up on the board, so that later on, as you say, if the parents get a little too intrusive, I can gently refer back to what we discussed, and it's just a gentle reminder.
Yeah, some comments as well, Tash, about using role play in the class and pair work as well, which is always good to encourage speaking. And there was
made a comment about pictures, talking about their
yeah.
favorite toy. That's always good, isn't it? To bring something of theirs and then talk about it.
Also, just show and tell was another comment I saw. I don't know who said it, but yeah, that was also a really good way of encouraging speaking.
Yes.
Okay, I think we can move on. Let's see. Where are we? Okay.
Okay, so we've discussed the challenges. We went through the routine that Cherie and I use, and we've just spoken about encouraging speaking. So next on our list is using songs and rhymes. Cherie, I'm sure you've got loads of songs up your sleeve.
So this is actually my favorite part of any EY class. Anytime I can like belt out a tune. Let's first ask the teachers what kind of songs they use. So let me just put the question up first. So our question to you is, do you use songs from YouTube or do you sing yourself in class?
Till the answers roll in, Cherie, how do you pick your songs? And when do you actually introduce a new song?
So I usually introduce a new song based on the topic. And if I can't find a song, then I just make up a rhyme. And this way I can use the target language and all the vocab from the theme or the topic in the song itself.
Great. I think you've got an example for us, right?
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so the last song I did this term was the elephant song I made up. So we were learning all about elephants, and I introduced them to, let me bring him up. I introduced them to Ellie, but Ellie went missing. So we had to sing a chant to find Ellie. So I'll demonstrate with you, Tash. Will you be my student?
Sure, go for it.
All right, okay. So, oops, 1 second. Just getting my screen sorted out. Okay, so Tash, Ellie is not here. Where is she? Shall we sing a song to find her? Okay, let's learn the actions together, okay? Let's do the stomping action for elephant. Elephant, elephant. Where are you? Long, long trunk. Big, big ears. I love you so. Okay, so boys and girls, I'm going to sing the song now. See if you can join in with the actions, okay? Elephant, elephant, where are you? With your long, long trunk and your big, big ears. Elephant, elephant, where are you? Where are you? I love you so. So that was one of the that was one of the chants I did.
Great. So I follow the same structure that you showed us there, Cherie, where I do the actions first and get the kids to do the actions, and then I sing, and then slowly they pick up the words. So recently I did a topic, we covered the topic of castles. And like you said, I created a chant just to review some of the vocabulary. I won't go through the whole process again, but let me just do the chant so that you hear it.
I'll follow you with the actions, Tash.
Please, go ahead. Right, so it goes, I'm a king, I'm the king of my castle. I'm a queen and I rule them all. I'm a knight, I ride many horses. I'm a jester, they laugh, I fall. So again, as we did it many times, they picked up the vocabulary, the different characters, the people connected to castles. So that was great.
Yeah, so I'm assuming they all knew these, like the words and the vocabulary as well.
Yes, so jester and knight. It actually featured in a video we watched, and then we reviewed it, we played games, and then we ended with the chant to really help to embed it, to help them remember it.
Right. Okay, so let's look at some of the answers to the question. I'll just put the question up as well. Do you use songs from YouTube or do you sing yourself in class? What are the teachers saying, Tash?
I saw lots of YouTube. I also saw, I can't remember the name, I'm sorry, but I saw one person saying that they play the piano and they sing. And I thought, oh, wow, how lovely and musical is that? So
yeah, I think a lot of people use both as well, which I think we use both as well. So quite a few teachers use YouTube, and which is a really good resource, but sometimes it's not always ideal because the level of language might be too complex. And when playing a song from YouTube, I think the level of engagement is not as much because the students are just watching and they don't always like sing along or participate as much. But that being said, it's a great resource for like listening practice, and as long as you use really good appropriate pre, while, and post listening tasks, like I'm a fan of YouTube songs as well. Tash, how do you get your students to engage more with songs you introduce?
Well, if I've taught them a song this week,
Mhm.
like I just demonstrated with the actions, I make sure that when I send their homework for the week, that I include the lyrics and also the actions. I think we've got a little example of that on the next slide. There we
Right,
go.
yeah.
So this way, in this way, they're able to practice what we did at home. And I find having the actions is helpful because then it's the same. They're learning the same action even at home with their parents. And repeat, for kids, doing the same thing again and again, repeating it is really key. So each week when they come back, I make sure we sing and we practice the song we learned last week and maybe the week before. And that way, after a few weeks roll past, they catch on. They're able to sing and they know the actions. They enjoy it.
Yeah, I think it's really important as well, like the homework that we assign is not just a worksheet, but an opportunity to practice what we have learned in class. And it's really important to try to involve parents as well. So yeah, I think this is a great way to put it on the homework sheet as well. Yeah. Okay, so let's see if we can move on. Right, so we've discussed challenges, routines, encouraging speaking, songs and rhymes. Let's move on to how we do pretend play in an online class. So I remember this was what I was worried about the most when we moved online, but I have to say now I love doing pretend play in an online class. So we go. So let's ask the teachers first. What type of pretend play activities have you done in any of your classes? So even if you haven't taught EY, maybe you've done it with some primary classes. So the sentence prompts are there that may help you form your sentences. And just let us know in the chat. Tash, what kind of pretend play have you done with your classes?
Well, one that I did quite recently was lots of fun. I called it A Walk in the Rain. So we had just a couple of lessons really on the topics of weather, rainy weather, sunny weather, and so on. Okay. Shall I demonstrate what I did? And Cherie, maybe you can be my student. Okay. So we started off by pretending to play. So let's play. I've got my cars. I'm playing with my cars. Oh, Cherie, what are you doing?
I'm playing with Ellie.
Oh, that's lovely. Oh, Cherie, it's gone dark suddenly. Let's go to the window. What's happening? It's raining. Is it raining where you are?
It's raining.
Oh, did you hear that? What is that?
I think it's thunder.
Yes. Oh no. Oh, what's that light? What's that bright light?
Is it lightning?
Yes, I think so. I don't like storms. Do you like storms, Cherie?
No.
Is it going to end soon? Oh, you know what? I think it's getting less. Has the thunder stopped? Yeah?
Yeah.
It's raining now. I quite like the rain. I know. Would you like to go out and play in the rain?
Let's do that.
Now, what do we have to wear before we go out in the rain?
Should we wear a raincoat?
Yes, come on, let's put our raincoats on. Get your arms in and get your hood on. And have you got one of these? What is this I've got?
Is it an umbrella?
Yes, I've got my blue umbrella. What color is yours?
Mine's pink.
Lovely. Come on, let's run out in the garden. I'm dancing in the rain. I'm dancing in the rain.
I'm jumping in a mud puddle.
Okay, I'm going to pause. There. That was loads of fun. I had lots of them jumping in the mud, rolling in the mud. A few wanted to make little boats, paper boats, and film them. So each one shared what they were doing, and that was lovely.
And also you didn't have to use any props. It was all imagination.
It was completely pretend.
Yeah, and it's also really student-led, isn't it? Like they feed you the answers and yeah, that's great.
And later on in the activity, so right now I was sort of guiding them, but later on each one took over and they told me what they were doing. So yes, it was very student-centered at that point.
Yeah. So I did a pretend play actually last week, and it was on the topic of camping. And so what I did was, let me see if you can see my screen properly. Yeah. So what I did was I took my camping bag, and then we had to pack to go camping. So like, oh, what do I need? I need a
torch.
And then with other items as well. So what I like to do is I like to demo on one day, and then for the next day, they're all organized and they pack their own bag as well. So that's another way of doing pretend play as well.
And I think that's a great tip. It's a practical one where you do it on the first day and then in the next lesson that they're all ready to go.
Yeah,
I think pretend play is also really important, not just for the speaking that it generates, but also that because at this age, they need that imagination. They need chances to develop their creativity and to pretend.
Yeah.
So I think we've got a few more examples, don't we, Cherie?
Yes, let me just put that.
Share screen again.
Yeah.
There we go. So you know that chant I did a little while ago, the Castles chant about the king and the queen. Following on from that, as you see on the screen there on the far left, on my left, you have my brave knight. He made himself a complete armor. He's got a shield, the armor, the sword. And then on the far right, that's a king. You can see his crown and his sword again. And that was great because they were so, they were all dressed up. They really got into it. They were fighting with dragons and climbing up towers, and they really enjoyed that. Cherie, the one in the middle is yours. Would you like to tell us about that?
Yeah, so this was on the same topic, Tash, and one thing I got them to do was they had to build a castle using things around the house, and then the next day, or like I think it was a week after, they kind of showed it to me. So like this is just a picture of the one I did as an example where I used pins and my weights. As you can see, my cat jumped in, and so this happened during class. So we pretended my cat was the dragon, and then we all chased the dragon away with our swords. So yeah, lovely. Some really good comments as well, Tash. I don't know if you had a chance to check it out.
Yeah, I'm just having a little look now.
There were some role play activities in the, yeah, and also role play activities going to the shops, which is a really easy one to do as well.
Yes, yeah, good. Angelina, I like that idea of different hats, so you can create different characters using the hats. There's one about animals, dressing up as animals and going to the forest.
That's nice.
And also acting out the songs they've done, like the 5 Little Monkeys. Yeah, so maybe they can pretend they're a monkey. Lovely, great ideas.
All right, so let's just see if we can move on. Okay, so I think we've almost come to the end now. So yes, we spoke about the different aspects of teaching early years online. So we first spoke about the challenges, and I think we're all going to have challenges. So it's really important to just take a few minutes to reflect and adjust as you go along, and don't be too hard on yourself. We're all learning still. The second one was routines, and using visual cues is quite important. And also remember, routines can form the framework for a lesson plan, making planning easy as well. For encouraging speaking, we spoke about creating moments of authentic conversation, and also to have patience and positive reinforcement. It goes a long way. Moving on to songs, don't be afraid to make up your own rhymes and actions, and don't feel shy about it, like just have a go. Then we finally ended with pretend play, which get the students to direct and get the students to kind of direct which way the pretend play activity is going, or you can just demo the pretend play on one day and then kind of extend pretend play over a series of lessons as well. All right, so we hope you found this session useful. So let's have a look at the first question we asked you at the start of this session. What is the percentage now? How confident are you? Has it gone up or gone down? Hopefully up. Tash, has your confidence increased over the period you've been teaching EYs online?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I started out not very confident at all, and now I'm here sharing my ideas with all of you. So definitely.
Great. So lots of ups in the chat. So that's great. Shall we
Lovely.
move on to the question and answer?
Yes, and I see Paul's here, bang on time.
How come you finished bang on time as well? Fantastic. Yeah, lots of ups. Everyone, yeah, and me as well. In fact, actually, I haven't taught early years for several years, but watching your presentation, I'm kind of feel like I'd quite like to get back into the classroom with teaching small kids. Exactly, with puppets and songs and everything. Brilliant. Thanks ever so much for that, you two. It was really good, really informative, and yeah, full of enthusiasm and hopefully lots of learning for everyone. As we can see, everyone's written that their percentage has gone up, so that's great. There are quite a few questions.
There's one about how much time should one lesson take in an online teaching. This is a really good question, and like Tash and I have like many debates about this.
Especially with this age group, right? With early years.
What do you think, Tash?
Right now, just to talk about the reality where we work, the 3 to 4 year olds just do a 45-minute session, and we meet them 3 times a week. The slightly older kids, the 4 to 6 year olds, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it 1 hour and 15 minutes that
1
they
hour
do?
15, yeah. But we also give a small break of about like 7 minutes or even up to 10 minutes, depending on how it's going. I personally think 45 minutes is enough for early years. I think even 1 hour 15 minutes is too much, but
yes. I think that if it is a little longer, then the onus is on you to keep the pace, to keep varying activities, and that they're never seated doing the same thing for, Cherie, what would you say, 10 minutes maximum?
Yeah,
definitely not longer than that.
Do you kind of give them little breaks in between as well to sort of go and get a drink? I mean, this is teaching online, obviously, but or to go and, or do you like to sort of keep them there?
You do brain breaks, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do like this little bit of yoga, stretching and breathing activities if I feel like it's kind of, going a little bit off.
I think these are students. If you see them sort of spacing out or just disappearing, I've got little boys that'll just get up and walk off if it's boring. So I try and draw them in by maybe doing like a really quick game. There's loads of these dance freeze type songs, just for a minute or two, just something to completely change the pace, get their interest back, and then you've got them, and then you can continue with the lesson.
Okay, yeah, I guess that's the challenge, isn't it, with younger kids? I mean, well, with older ones as well, I suppose, to some extent, is that their attention kind of wanders off. So obviously, the strategies that you've talked about in the webinar and also now for kind of keeping them engaged or giving them that space. I love the idea of doing some yoga. That's great. Okay, other questions. Let's have a look. How many students are ideal for an online lesson? How many do you teach, both of you, in your class?
Again, we have many discussions with management over this.
Sure.
Ideally, a smaller number of students, they get more attention. Right now, Cherie, what's our maximum now? Is it 9?
I think it's like 11 for the higher, for the 5 year olds. I like 8 to 10. I think that's a good number. But maybe towards the 8 actually.
Okay. Okay. Online games, things like Kahoot and so on. Do you use those with early years, or is that just a little bit tricky?
I personally haven't. I've just used a website called Phonics Play that's specifically designed for this age group. But perhaps they might talk about it a little more in that next webinar coming up. So won't say too much. But no, because lessons are also online, I try and limit having a screen on screen. So like we demonstrated, we prefer to do, or at least I prefer to do TPR type activities, getting them jumping, responding, bringing things, running. So that even though we are online and we're using a screen, we're not expecting them to keep looking at the screen, but we're getting them engaged.
Right, okay. So I'm just looking, because we on Facebook, we're also streaming on Facebook. So we ran a poll earlier on Facebook around routines. Do you use routines with your early years learners? And they had 74% said yes, and 26% who said they don't use routines. So anyway, that's yeah, I forgot. Thank you to people watching from Facebook. Also, if you have any questions and you're watching on Facebook, then do put them in the chat, and we'll try to, or in the comments, and we'll try to sort of feed those in. But yes, I meant to say welcome to those of you joining on Facebook. Okay, more questions. Gosh, there's lots. What students don't pay attention in the lesson and play around. We've kind of covered that, I think, a little bit with some of the strategies that you use there. Okay, it's an interesting one about students who can't learn on their own, but they need their parents' help, but that sometimes the parents are not available. I don't know, I mean, maybe this isn't covered in this webinar, but do you have it? Have you sort of had that situation before where there's been a need for parents to be around and they haven't?
So in our context, it's a little bit different because there has to be an adult next to the child, like at least in the room, so at the beginning of the year, that really helps. And then towards the end, they get a bit more independent and they just know what to do and how to ask for help and that sort of thing. So yeah.
I think it also depends. In the question, it's not clear as to whether the help is for technical reasons or whether it's to do with the language. So I'd say if it was technical, I might try and arrange a call through the office, the admin staff, to say there's a technical problem, please can an adult help? Because I wouldn't expect the 3-year-old to be able to fix their Zoom issues when I can't.
Yeah. Why not?
If it's a language issue, then maybe the teacher needs to think about what the problem is, and then how they can address it maybe in a following lesson.
Okay. Questions. This one about where's it gone? Shy students. What kind of, have you got any particular strategies for students that are shy to sort of try and bring them into the class a little bit more online?
Cherie, do you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, I think we did cover this a little bit. I think it's really important to be patient and not push, because at this age, it's really receptive skills that need to be like focused on more before any production can happen. And not like some students have not had any exposure to English, so it's like, oh my God, what is this? So yeah, and even just if they just do this or like this and they listen to instructions, I mean, that's good enough initially, and that can be like that for like an entire year, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, wow, what just happened? They're just producing like sentences, which is really great to see. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would second that. I actually had a student last year, a little girl who would barely say a word, but you could see she was following. You could see she was doing, like, drawing the picture that everybody else was drawing and so on. And just praising and encouraging and continuing to communicate. So I would still say, oh, is that you in the garden? Even if there was no response. And as Cherie said, after she got really comfortable, it took maybe 3 months, maybe 4 months. And then she started just simple answers and then longer answers. So just be patient, just keep praising and encouraging, and they'll join in when they're ready.
When they're ready, yeah.
Okay.
So
it's kind of giving them time. All right. Okay. One of the things I was thinking of, because there's lots of, obviously with primary classes and obviously with early years as well, you do a lot of craft work, so kind of making things and so on. Do you do that in class, in the online class, or is that more of a homework thing?
So, I mean, I like to do a lot. I like to do craft in the class, but it is a constant like battle I'm having as well. Like, oh, am I wasting too much time on craft or that sort of thing? But then again, you have to remind yourself at this age, we are also trying to improve their fine motor skills. So it is important to do some craft, but it takes a little bit more time to just think about, is this age appropriate? Am I asking too much? Is it going to be one of those things that the parents will end up having to do like everything? Yeah, Tash, what about you?
Yes, I do think it's important that we do some craft work in the lesson. And the reason is that whenever I've done it, I've seen how parents just swoop in, they take over, they do the cutting. And so that gives me an insight as to what would happen if I had set that as homework. It would be the parents' craft. So often I have to step in and say, Mommy, scissors down, or Daddy, hand the scissors over. And the reason is, as Cherie said, with a 3-year-old, they don't know how you use a pair of scissors. So that's part of our job, to show that this is where your thumb goes, this is where your forefinger goes, this is how you practice, safety, all of that. So for all those reasons, I would pick the craft very carefully so that there's maybe one piece of cutting, or so that it's simple enough. I just happen to have, this is the same room I teach in. So let me show you what I'm doing. So this here is a handprint giraffe we did. We've just been doing jungle wild animals. Can you see that?
Yeah, the light's a little bit. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, now we can.
So this one was easy to do in class. The week before, I told parents to get some yellow, brown, and orange paint ready. And they came ready with their aprons, their paint brushes. It took us maybe 15 minutes. Each week, we did a different, so we did a lion.
All right, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Lion, we did a monkey. So the animals we did in class. And then this jungle scene, I showed them how I did it in class, but I got them to do that at home because that was going to take longer. I wanted them to use leaf prints. They had to go into the garden. So I think you could plan it out like that, where you do some of it in class and something that's going to be a sort of a bigger project you could set for homework.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Thank you. I like the hand. Yes, no, I'll do that myself. Just to say, very quickly, for things like, I've just noticed a comment there from Tashya, not able to access the link for the certificate. If you, I've put in the links to certificates and surveys and so on into the chat. I said at the beginning, but maybe some people weren't, not everyone was here at the beginning. If you're watching on a mobile, you won't be able to click those links, but don't panic, because you will get an email tomorrow, and the email will say thank you for attending the webinar, and in that email it will have a link to the certificate, it will have a link to the survey, it will have a link to where the recording is, and where you can download the slides. So everything will be there tomorrow if you can't click on those links today. We're going to have to stop there. We've run out of time, unfortunately. Can I just ask very quickly in the chat, have people who are in this webinar, are you joining our next webinar in 15 minutes? Just type in the chat if you're coming over to the other one on phonics. Yes, lots of yeses. Okay, all right. So if you are, I apologise in advance. I will probably say some of the same things again about certificates and so on, but you know that, so you're okay. You just have to sit and listen to it again. Apologies for that. Okay, Tash and Cherie, thank you ever so much for that. Really, it was great. It was full of energy, full of lots of great advice, and lots of people watching with some fantastic feedback as well. So brilliant. Thank you ever so much, both of you. And we'll see you probably on Facebook Lives coming up in the next few months as well, because I know, Cherie, you're going to be doing a few Facebook Lives, and Tash, I think, as well. Perhaps, I can't remember if you are as well. But anyway, either way, we'll be seeing you again. Thank you ever so much. enjoy the rest of your afternoon, evening, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you. And thanks everyone for joining us. Oh,
Thanks,
sorry.
everyone. Bye.
Sorry, Tash, you wanted to do your goodbye chant. Go for it. Do it.
Yeah, let's just finish with a goodbye chant. So clap your hands, spin around, jump up high, and wave goodbye. Thanks, everyone. We'll see
Bye,
you later.
everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Later.
Excellent. Thanks very much. Bye bye.